will not move unless the ram is in the up position. Once the ram's in the up position, then you'll notice the number will change in a lowering manner to lower the y-axis. The double plus will raise it in fast speed. You will then adjust it slow speed negative, slow speed positive. If ever in the event that you see the little warning sign here, be sure to click on it. At this point it says oil pump not started. I shut the pump off for audio reasons. To exit out of that box, you simply touch it anywhere to get out of there. At any time that you see that warning sign, always check to make sure what your errors are reading. At this point, you would exit by hitting the X. You would then go to settings. You would go to tools, and you would go to die. Now, under the H column, which is the height of your die, we are using die number 2. Die number 2's height is 3.80. Now, at this point, you would write down that 3.80, and with a pair of calipers, because this is a very critical calibration, you would take and you would measure the actual thickness of your material. In this case, the actual thickness is 0.062. You would add 0.062 to 3.80. That would give you 3.862. At this point, you would then go to correct. You would go to XY axis. You would insert 3.862 at this point into the input H. You would also select what punch number you are using. The machine allows 20 different punches to be input into the die library or into the punch library. In the die library, up to 50 different dies. We will pick punch number 1, which is what's currently in the machine. Hit OK. Then once you establish that the 3.862, you can visually see it there, you would hit the confirm key. Once you hit the confirm key, you have then calibrated your y-axis. To calibrate your x-axis, you will go to Machine, Manual, X-axis. Assuming that your x-axis is known to be different than what you're reading when you bend a piece of metal, what you will do by using, again, your fast or your slow, we'll move it back, fast speed, back, slow speed, forward, slow speed, forward, fast speed. What you will do is you will put your machine into a position that you will bend a piece. Once that piece is bent, you will measure either to the inside or the outside of that bend, depending on how you will bend your drawing. The drawing's either going to go to inside or outside measurement. That will be up to your engineers or your people who do your drawings. You will actually measure that, and at this point, once it's measured, you will exit out. You will go to correct, XY. You will input, as it says, please input the measured width. You will input the measured width into your x-axis. You will confirm it. When you confirm, you are telling the computer exactly where your x-axis or y-axis is at that time based on the measurement you just measured your bent part with. At that point, your machine is then calibrated. You can exit back and go to the main menu. Now we're going to go through the single operation of the machine. You will go to machine, you will select single cycle. Now single cycle is used when you're going to be running a number of pieces that require one bend at a given angle and at a given x-axis or back gauge setting. What you will do is you will come to your angle, you will punch in your angle, the y equal, you will not adjust, that is determined by the computer, your CNC computer. Always leave the auto calculate with a little check mark in there, and the computer will automatically adjust to whatever settings you put into the computer. Now, on your first piece, you'll want to use 0.0 on your correct angle. You will put the appropriate length, in which this case is 3 inches. You will select your material. Your material, you have steel, stainless steel, aluminum, and other. Other is for if you're doing brass, bronze, lead, whatever other form of metals you may be bending. You can put the tensile strength in there under settings as we went through earlier. In this case, we're using steel, so I will select steel, make sure that it turns a bright blue, hit OK. The thickness of metal, you won't have to, at this point, measure the thickness of the metal with calipers if you know the given gauge and what the given gauge should be. As long as the metal is not too far off, the computer will go to where it's supposed to be, get you where it's supposed to be. You can make your first bend, and at that point we will make a correction on the correct angle to compensate for the thickness and or tensile strength. You'll set your back gauge to wherever you will want it. In this case, I'm going to put 4 inches. The R axis, which is an option on this machine, which may not be on yours, you can put it to where you want it to be. In this case, we'll use 0 because we're only going to be doing a single bend. You will select the appropriate punch, and you will select the appropriate die depending on the thickness of the metal that you're going to be bending. Your V opening of your die should be 8 times the thickness of the metal, up to 5/16 of an inch. Anything over 5/16 or higher should be 10 times the thickness of the metal. Your dwell time will be used if you want to have the RAM return on its own after a given period of time. To accomplish that, you will turn your selector knob clockwise to the auto return position. Your dwell time may need to be changed by either increasing it or decreasing it to ensure the machine has the proper time to do the proper bend. If it's too little of time, the machine may not do a complete bend. If it's too much time, it'll just be wasting production time. So you'll need to change that accordingly. You will notice these are your set points. The Y equal is what the computer says it needs to be at. You manually will set your X axis where you want your back gauge to be, and in this case, the R axis where you would like it to be. On top, these numbers reflect where the machine actually is at. In this case, you are 1/1000th different from what the computer said is needed to do this bend. The machine will allow plus or minus 1/1000 on a y-axis. On the x-axis, you are allowed 0.01 or 1/10 of an inch plus or minus. On the r-axis, you are also allowed 0.01 or 1/10 of an inch plus or minus. Then the machine will run once those points, those set points have been met. What you will do at this time is you will start your pump. You will then have to push the CNC start button, and you will hear and see the numbers change, and you will hear your axes moving or see them moving to where they match. At that point, we are ready to make a bend. At this point, once your settings have all been achieved, you will then put your metal in. We will use the dwell time. Now your dwell time will start counting as soon as your RAM hits the slowdown switch. Once the 4 seconds in this case, which I have it set up for 4 seconds, once it hits the slowdown switch, if you count 4 seconds, 1 second after that, you will see the RAM raise. In other words, in 5 seconds. What that does is the pressure will kick out after 4 seconds. The valves will find their home position, and then the RAM will raise 1 second later. That's what that 1 second delay is. So then all you'll do, make sure, if you'll notice your light curtain, if your light curtain is broke, it will not come down. Once I move my hand, it will. Also allow at this time for me to say, once the RAM comes down and hits the slowdown switch, the light curtain is nullified. It does not prevent the RAM from coming any further once it hits the slowdown switch. The reason for that is so that you can manipulate your metal before it actually starts bending. Now, you will notice that our bend is not quite at 90 degrees. At this point, after establishing by the use of an angle finder, you will find what angle it is, find out how many degrees it's off using your angle finder. At this point, with the RAM in the up position, you will turn off your CNC. I should mention, you'll notice that once all the points are set, after you hit CNC start, that the screen will gray out. When you hit CNC stop, they will go back to white, and at that time, you can make your changes. In this case, I am 4 degrees off. So what I would do, because of thickness variances and because of tensile strength variances, what I would do at this point, and also V opening, the larger the die, you'll have variances if you're not using the proper V opening. At this point, what I would do, because I need it to come up further, I would go a negative. You would hit the negative, 4, enter. Now, if you'll notice, the RAM, the y-axis, is at a much less or a much lower number than what it's actually at right now. So what you would do at this point then is hit CNC start, let your y-axis adjust, put your metal in, bring it back down. Now I want to demonstrate, I can break the light curtain now in slow speed and the machine still works. Now if you look at your metal, it is almost a perfect 90. And you would change your angle, correct your angle in your correct angle to get it a perfect 90. Once you have achieved that, the repeatability on your y-axis is 0.0005 repeatability on the y-axis. So you can run all the parts you want at this time and get the exact same bend, assuming you're using the same lot of metal, because thicknesses vary, tensile strengths vary. We're going to cover product at this point. Product will be selected anytime you are going to either create a program by code or by drawing, or to edit an existing program. What you would do is hit product. In this case, we will create a new program. You'll select new, and we will do a drawing at this point. Drawing. Now, in drawing, you must first name your program. In this case, we will call it 1, 2, 3. Hit return. Hit OK. Basic parameters. We got to put the basic information in for the computer to make its adjustments and figure out how it's